Hey, everybody. Hi, Andrew. Hello. Oh, gosh, we got a ton of people coming in that I know. That's awesome. I don't know where everybody else is. They're not getting on. Oh, here we go. Great. Hi, Ray. Hi, Dennis. Oh, you guys. That's so awesome you're here.
It's so good to
Hi.
see you. Hi.
Yeah, terrific. Okay, we're just going to let a few people kind of wander in. We're just going to give it a couple of minutes and then we'll get started. I'll keep an eye on. You're co-hosting, right, Mackenzie and Emma? Are you able to see people coming in and let them in, or is it just me that's hosting? Are we that we can co-host?
No, we can't let people in.
That's on you?
That's on you. Sorry.
Okay, no worries. I'm going to do that then. Hi, Kathy.
Hey, how you doing?
Hi, great to see you.
Yeah, good to be here.
I'm so glad that you could be here. Cool, man. Oh my gosh. Yay, we're gonna have a great group tonight. Well, as people are coming in, I'm gonna just get started because we have a lot to cover tonight. So welcome everybody. There's a lot of you that are already here, but you're not showing up on your camera, so the room is more full than it seems. And a lot of you that signed on were also waiting for the recording. So welcome. I think everybody here so far knows who I am, but I'm Kelly and I'm the founder and CEO of EQUUS. And welcome to Queer Topics 101. And it's an EQUUS Ask Us Anything event. And we have these regular series. We have a regular series called Ask Us Anything or Ask Me Anything. It happens every month. We're going to be doing it every month in 2022. And it's a kind of share the mic moment where someone who we feel or some people who we feel have important things to share with our community can take the stage and share their insights and wisdom and answer questions. And just basically, it's just a super safe space for people to engage in material that sometimes people don't want to talk about, or they're too shy to ask, or maybe they just want to know more about it, but they'd like to have more of a kind of a safer space in which to explore that. So that's what Ask Us Anything is about tonight, and it's us because we are featuring Emma Shalut and Mackenzie Shapiro, who are EQUUS team members. And the reason that we're having this event is largely because of Emma and Mackenzie. Actually, Emma manages the marketing and branding and PR of EQUUS. She's also a member of the gay queer community and a member of the younger generation, where so much of this dialogue around identity and gender is kind of alive and growing and emerging in a really robust way. And Mackenzie is on the administrative team. She's the wing woman to Stephanie Handley, who's the director of operations. And just through them, I learned as a leader, as someone who cares about people, as someone who works with people, just how much I didn't understand about the queer community, just how much bias was running, for me because of my misunderstanding and not knowing. And so I was really fortunate to sit at the table with Emma and Mackenzie on several evenings and basically have my butt kicked very kindly. As I learned new things, because this is really a very, very important emerging conversation. So this is why we share it with you tonight. And there are no dumb questions tonight, none at all. And Emma and Mackenzie are so great at helping all of us to understand some of these nuances more that are so important, so that we can become allies for each other if you're already in the gay community, and allies for this really special population of people. So I'm going to hand it over to Mackenzie and Emma.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Go ahead. Do you have anything you want to say about yourself? Thank you guys all for coming. Definitely tonight there are no dumb questions. Anything really means anything. I came out in college and I went to art school twice, which means that I am thoroughly entrenched in the queer community and the LGBTQ community at large. So yeah, I'm pretty much always involved in a lot of dialogue, which I then get to share, which I think this is a really cool opportunity. Thank you, Kelly, for giving us this platform that we can answer questions.
Like Kelly said, I'm the person in charge of marketing and basically anything having to do with public relations, all of that kind of stuff. And I was initially interested in this type of work specifically because I realized that as somebody from the generation that we're a part of, we kind of have this innate kind of just ear to the ground, I guess. And it's been really, I think, important to kind of leverage that knowledge and also just our own innate knowledge in a way that can educate people and can help businesses like EQUUS and also just educate as many people as we can. So I'm excited to just talk, basically. Just
awesome.
Have a dialogue. Yeah.
Fabulous. So we're going to be feeding you a bunch of questions. Already a ton of questions came in. For all of you that have joined, please raise your hand and you can ask your question directly to Emma and Mackenzie, to both of them, to one of them, either one of them. That's also fine. Or you can throw your question in the chat. But I'm going to go ahead and start with some that came feeding in before people sent in questions. So let's just start with some basics. Somebody asked, what is the difference between queer and gay?
Yeah, that's a good question. You were saying some really good things earlier. Do you want to take this one?
Basically queer is just kind of more of an umbrella term, and gay is just one of those pieces in the puzzle that goes into queer as an entire umbrella. So it's just one little part, and there's a bunch of different parts that fit within that queer umbrella. And it's something that some people are really comfortable with, and they like to just be referred to as gay. And it's something that a lot of people still are not comfortable with, and they would rather just go with something more specific like gay or lesbian. So it's just really personal.
It was originally used as a slur, and if there's a lot of people from different generations of LGBTQ people, like my sister, she's 20 years older than me. She's also a lesbian. And for her, when she was my age, it was a slur. But our generation has kind of reclaimed it. And it still can be used as a slur. But now it has kind of become a term for basically just not straight. And gay has also kind of sometimes is used as an umbrella term as well for not straight, but it really means a man who's attracted to men exclusively.
Oh, okay. So lesbian and then gay is a man who's attracted to men. Okay, so that's the G. Sorry. It's just suddenly dropped in my brain. Okay, cool. Okay, next question. And by the way, that wasn't my question, but it should have been. I admit I'm having a hard time understanding the pronoun they. Please explain it to me.
Yeah, absolutely. So they is a pronoun just like she, her, or they, them. Everyone uses pronouns. It's just something I don't think that was very much on the forefront of our thinking until kind of recently, but everyone has pronouns. My pronouns are she, her.
So are mine.
Cool. But yeah, so they, them is just pronouns like any other. But they just kind of are outside of the binary of she, her, he, him.
Can you describe more? So there's a she and there's a he, and they is non-binary.
Yes. There's a lot of nuance that goes into it.
Yeah, go for it.
Actually, in these situations that you realize how much like you just kind of absorb. It's like kind of like text speak, where it's like Facebook is something that like I grew up in, so I don't even think about it anymore. But yeah, so pronouns don't actually reflect gender. It's just a way of referring to someone. So people who are genderqueer, for example, so not fitting into any kind of gender binary, they can use any pronouns that they like, and they're not indicative of their gender. But a lot of people who are non-binary or genderqueer will use the pronouns they, them, because they are historically non-gendered. Because we have a societal assumption with she, her, and he, him, that they are belonging to like man versus woman. But yeah, and a lot of people say like they're not grammatically accurate, which it's kind of like a 3-pointer to that one. I actually honestly really love this question because I'm like, I always feel very prepared for it. I'm like, yeah, I know how to answer this one. Because first, as we know, as we've all seen, grammar is ever evolving. And the kind of hierarchy of grammar is Emma was saying earlier.
Well, just referring to things as good grammar, bad grammar, all of that is inherently classist and not great. Yeah, that's something that we should be kind of thinking of as well.
Yeah.
But that's a whole nother, we could be here all night talking about that.
But yeah, and historically, back in the times of Shakespeare, if you're one of those people that needs like very, very rooted, concrete examples, back in the time of Shakespeare, they, them was also used singularly, and we already use it singularly every day. If you're driving behind someone and they're a really bad driver, you probably, I'm guessing, don't say, oh, he or she is a really bad driver. You probably just go, oh, they're a really bad driver. And there's not more than one person driving the car.
Mm-hmm. Good point.
So yeah.
Okay, excellent. I know now I can feel people's like, wait a minute, gender queer, wait a minute. Now I've got more questions. So I have a question. There's a question in the chat. I'm still not clear on queer. I know a woman who is married to a man and identifies as queer.
That is totally valid.
Yeah.
Queer encapsulates pretty much, pretty much everything, a lot.
Yeah.
She could be, I don't want to try to pigeonhole her, but she could be bi, she could be pan, she could be so many different things, and also married to a man. She could be, if she's bisexual, she's queer, but she is attracted to men as well and married a man. Oh, pan is pansexual, so that means attracted to anybody, regardless of gender, regardless of anything.
Yeah. It's kind of like saying that the parts don't matter.
You mean the physical parts don't matter? Okay. Yeah.
So like the gender identity doesn't play into any sort of, yeah. You've already said it. But yeah, exactly. You can, who you're married to or dating or partnered with isn't exclusive to your sexuality. So yeah, you don't stop eating vegetables, or I'm getting lost here. But yeah, I've already said
I love an analogy. I also will say that people who I keep saying oh, unless you're straight, unless you're heterosexual, unless you're attracted to a different sex or gender, then you would, be not queer. But I know people who are trans and have, if they transitioned, they're a man, they have a wife, technically that is a heterosexual relationship, but they still identify as queer because of their trans experience. So there's a lot of things there.
Yeah, there is a lot of things there. I mean, you're opening a lot of, well, this is what happened with me when I sat down with both of you, and with you specifically, Mackenzie, is that the more you spoke, the more questions I had, because the more I realized, oh, there's so much that I don't know. Okay. And I'm going to keep reading from the chat and from the things that came in, but if any of you all have any questions, please don't hesitate to raise your hand. Okay, here's a good question. Why do you feel the LGBTQ community is becoming so intentionally focused on the various differences, i.e. lesbian, gay, trans, bi, queer? We're gay. Why do you feel so much emphasis on the differences is now so commonplace? That's a great question.
Yeah.
I would kind of ask my own question. I would kind of ask, like, first of all, I actually feel like it's moving away from that. So that's interesting. And yeah, I think I would just want to know, like, what led you to kind of feel that way? Because I feel totally differently. And I also feel like, if anything, we're kind of moving in the opposite direction. At least the people that I know and like surround myself with, it seems like it used to be, even when I was a lot younger, you know, as soon as that was, it seems like it used to be really like if you were going to be a lesbian, you had to be a lesbian. That's it. End of story. Like, hard to change, like
No nuance,
anything. And now, at least people that I know are really fluid. You can everyone just kind of assumes nothing.
Yeah.
And labels are really fluid. They're there if you want to use them. They're also just not assumed that you would use them. And I feel like it feels broader, and less insular. And I think that people turn to like labels like gay or, you know, anything because it helps them find a community. Which is really important, and it helps people really narrow down their experiences and find people who've had similar experiences, which is really important. But then at the same time, yeah, I just feel like it's not as closed anymore. I feel like we're all kind of just a lot broader. We have lots of different intersectional identities now, and it's less kind of, you have to pick one and go with it.
Yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree.
But I would love to hear like other experiences.
Well, so what I'm hearing you say, Emma, is because you said that you and Mackenzie really have your ear to the ground as things emerge. But remember, so many of us don't have our ear to the ground. So from our perspective, it went from gay, and that was the broad, right? Yeah. To like lesbian, gay, trans, bi, and now I'm going to go, okay, pan-romantic, demisexual, pansexual, demi-romantic, like, so, and right. So I think the question that's coming is, well, so let's just turn this into a larger question. What is the plethora of all those identities beyond just lesbian, you know, gay and bi and trans? What are those other ones? Yeah, there's asexual, demisexual, right? All those. And why suddenly have those emerged as a thing, even though your perspective is, Emma, that it's starting to blur again, but for a while it had to open to embrace those larger a larger spectrum of identities. Why, from your perspective, have those emerged as a something rather than just saying we're all gay?
Well, I think that all of those experiences are so different. You know, you can say like, oh, we're all under this gay umbrella, but my experience as a lesbian is going to be completely different from someone else's experience as a, like you said, like demi-romantic person. Like it's really different, and just putting one label on it. Like, I think a lot of people like to just kind of have that umbrella of queer or whatever it is. But I do feel like if it's important to you, it is important to have those really niche little communities where you can see yourself really clearly.
I feel like
the experiences are different.
Yeah, I feel like now labels are becoming a lot more self-oriented. Like for me, when I came out, it was really important for me to have a label. I needed to find like a label because I was no longer this thing that I thought I was for my entire life. Short as it was up until that point, because I was just a baby. But yeah, it was really important for me to be like, oh, I'm bisexual. Like, this is what I am. And I have this community and I have something to be again. That label ended up changing for me. And I think that is also a thing that we have now, is that much more fluidity, because, you know, sexuality isn't fluid for everyone, but we have that grace now. I remember a famous lesbian movie from the 90s I watched with my sister, and there's this scene where it's all these women sitting around, and one of them has just had sex with a man. And they're all like, well, a woman will never date you now. You have to disclose that before you like date women again. You have to disclose that you slept with a man. Like, and I feel like that culture is very much changing. Having one gender only gay bars is very much changing. You still get a few of them around, but because we're finding all this nuance and all of these labels, there is a lot more freedom within the community. And it is much more for just like finding like-minded people, like you were saying, and like experienced people.
Yeah.
And for yourself. And I see in the chat that someone said that they're just hearing pan, demi, all those things for the first time, which is yes.
Could you do that thing that you did for me, Mackenzie, I think 2 years ago, where I was like, okay, explain. So some of these words that people like, you don't have to go through the whole thing because there's easily, 24, but could you go through some of the less known, like, okay, well, I'm going to do this. I'm going to say the word and you define it. Ready? What's asexual?
Asexual is having no sexual attraction.
Okay.
To anyone, any gender.
To any gender. So no sexual drive. That's asexual. Okay. What is demisexual?
Demisexual is only being attracted to people when there's an intense emotional connection. And a lot of people think that that's the baseline. But like, I hear that a lot when it comes to people discussing demisexuals, but for a lot of people, no. For a lot of people, the sexual attraction is just there right off the bat. Like, to get personal, if I see a cute person, I don't know them, but I'm like, damn, they're really cute. I'm attracted to them. And I know that right off the bat. For demisexual people, it's not like that.
Right. Okay. What is, okay, here, I'm going to throw a curly one at you. What is a pansexual demi-romantic?
So, do you want to take this one?
Sure. That would just be somebody who's attracted to anybody regardless of sex or gender, but again, doesn't feel that way until there's some sort of emotional connection there, or they get to know the person really intimately.
Yeah, great. Totally different experiences, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
So you have like, the acronym now has gotten a lot longer. But yeah, and all of these things have historically existed. There's a lot of ideas that think that all of this stuff is really new, and especially with the rise of the internet, it has bubbled up a lot and you get a lot more voices in these communities. But I'm a history nerd. So the Kinsey Institute was a famous sex and genders institute in Europe, right? And a lot of their studies were targeted by the Nazis, and they had words for all of this prior to World War II. This was all very much spoken about. So it's not new, it's just hidden.
It's just hidden. Okay, speaking of hidden, great question from Kate. Why is J.K. Rowling accused of being anti-trans?
Yes.
She's taken to Twitter a lot in the past to basically say a lot of transphobic things, which include her equating basically parts to womanhood.
Yeah.
And saying I think that there was one like a couple years ago where she there was this like piece that she retweeted that said something about people who menstruate, right? So there can be somebody who menstruates can be any gender. There's men who menstruate anything. And she got very mad at that. And she was saying things like, people who menstruate are women, period, end of story. Like there is no such thing as somebody who's not a woman who menstruates. Call it what it is, basically, is what she was saying.
Yeah.
And yeah, she has not, she I mean, it would be one thing if she said that, you know, it was a couple years ago.
Yeah.
So it'd be one thing if she said those things. And then when people called her out being like, oh, okay, I've learned, she's doubled down to the point where it's very common knowledge that she is flat out transphobic. She doesn't agree with anything having to do with like trans.
And we can get into the whole thing of men who menstruate and all that kind of thing. Specifically, again, to this, I'm pretty sure, didn't she tweet something about equating trans people to pedophiles and how men pretending to be women will sneak into the bathrooms, which is all very transphobic rhetoric, because trans people aren't pretending to be anything. And I think us as cis people, I don't know actually if anyone here is not cis, but we're cis.
Can you define cis, please?
Yeah, cis. So trans and cis, they're both adjectives to describe your gender. So I'm cis, which is just the adjective to describe how I am a woman, which means I identify with the gender I was assigned at birth based on my sex. Sex refers to the physical, gender refers to the social. Gender is something that is constructed by our society as like certain rules that we all adhere to. So that's what cis means, is that I identify with the gender I was assigned based on my sex. And trans is just another descriptor, because I don't know about you guys, but I think there's a lot more to being a woman than me menstruating or having a uterus at large.
And both of those things, you can be assigned female at birth.
Exactly.
And not have a uterus for whatever reason. You know, maybe you're on medicine that makes it so you don't menstruate. That doesn't mean that you're less of a woman, and vice versa.
My sister-in-law doesn't have a uterus. She's no less of a woman.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of cis people, we make the mistake of looking at it as this person pretending to be a woman, or this person like trying to be a woman. A trans woman is trying to be a woman. But an important reframe that I think we have to have is that we have to imagine that, you know, I'm a woman, but what if I looked so much like a man that it was dangerous for me to be a woman? That even though I am a woman, people kept telling me I was a man. And that experience, because that's their experience. To speak on something that I actually have no idea, I haven't lived, but that is more true to the trans experience. And so then to lump in this whole group of people with pedophiles and predators and people who are not trans, it's really dangerous to an already vulnerable community, because they don't have a lot of people who accept them. There's no, you know, I'm pretty accepted across the board, and like, you know, I'm white, so I'm very much accepted by the white community. I'm a woman and I'm pretty much accepted by the women community. Like, I'm pretty much accepted. And it's very hard for trans people to have that acceptance. So then to go on and add on top that they're predators, when that's a false equivalency, because they're actually more likely to be the victims of sexual assault, of murder, of pretty much most crimes. It's really harsh, and it's really unfortunate that J.K. Rowling has used her platform to voice those things.
Cool, thank you. Very thorough about Madam J.K. So on the trans part, can you explain to us, please, what is trans exactly? For example, what is meant by trans man? What is meant by trans woman? Period. And then there's more parts to this question, but start with that.
Yeah, so a trans man is somebody who is a man but was born in a body with female sex organs, basically, and vice versa. A woman who is just happened to be born in a body with male sex organs.
Okay, and then how is this asked? Is the biological conversion what makes you trans, or is that irrelevant?
No, that's irrelevant. It's just being in the wrong body, basically. Just knowing that you are a different gender than what people might assume based on your body.
Okay. And does anything change if someone does go through the biological conversion? Does that then also change how, as Mackenzie would say, an adjective, or not? Stays trans? Okay.
Yeah, no, it doesn't change. It doesn't make them more or less trans if you've had certain medical procedures done. It doesn't make you more or less valid. It probably, it makes them feel a certain way about themselves. But
I know plenty of trans people who are super happy not having done anything to their physical form. Yeah. And like how you appear is also very little to do with your gender, except for the way that you want it to. But I had really short hair. I wore tight little bras and like dressed really, really butch. I got called sir all the time. I looked like a little boy. I'm still a woman. And I was a woman the entire time. Like, It doesn't matter how you look.
Okay, cool. Okay, so you said some terms that I think are important for people. You said so I'm going to throw some terms and you define. Gender non-conforming. What does that mean?
Basically not conforming to the ideas of what gender are in our society.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. What does the term heteronormative mean? Like, what's the heteronormative mindset?
Do you want me to take it?
Take it.
That would refer to this kind of old tradition that we have, or this idea of like male roles, female roles. They have to stay in their own lane. They have these predetermined roles, and men are attracted to women, women are attracted to men, men do XYZ, they work a certain job, they, women stay at home, have children.
Yeah.
It's kind of those preconceived notions that we have built into our society about what each gender does and their roles and who they're attracted to, basically.
The idea that straight is the normal, it's the baseline.
Right, and everything else is a deviation. Straight is normal and everything else is a deviation. That would be a heteronormative point of view.
Yeah.
Okay, how may we be a better ally? What are some common blind spots you often see others have, even those who have the best of intentions, in relation to honoring and respecting the LGBTQ plus community? Great
One of the biggest things that I often see in my life is people who rely on the gay person in the room to educate them, who don't really think about the fact that they have the entire World Wide Web at their fingertips and they can find out literally any piece of information on earth, and they kind of just wait to be corrected or wait to be educated instead of seeking that out. And already I just feel like at this point in time there's very little excuse to not be educated about really key things that are like just taking the first step of you guys being here tonight. You're educating yourself, you're taking that step. And a lot of people don't seem to think that it's their responsibility to do that. And it's also, I see that like racially and stuff like that too.
Absolutely, across the board. And like
not that certain races do that. I mean that people don't educate themselves about race
with
issues.
And like that's and obviously like we're the queer people that you can ask because we put ourselves in the situation. But
I see a lot of people just assuming that, oh, you're gay, so you'll tell me. And it's like, I have no responsibility to teach you anything when you have Google at your fingertips, unless, I put myself in a situation and I sign up to host a webinar. But if I'm just living my life, I don't love it when people ask me questions that they can find out for themselves.
Yeah, unless it's like a discussed relationship. It's a little inappropriate. But also like, I think a lot of people who are not in the community I find a lot of people who are not in the community haven't really taken the time to update what they think of when they think of queer issues and queer struggles and ways that they can support the queer community. and again, I'm using queer as an umbrella term. If actually anyone here is uncomfortable with me saying that word because of associations, let me know. But sorry, what was that? Did someone?
I just said great catch, great modeling.
But there's a lot more things like you can, if you are in charge of the workspace, making sure that there are gender neutral bathrooms. So, you know, if that works for everyone across the board, if you have a baby or, you know, whatever, but bathrooms don't really have that much need to be gendered anymore. It's just urinals. And then for people who don't feel safe in either male bathrooms or female bathrooms, they have a place to be. For making sure if you're in charge of healthcare, making sure that your healthcare is inclusive. And like, I mean, that goes across the board if you're in charge of healthcare, but making sure that it covers maybe counseling for queer people or just queer needs in general, because a lot of particularly queer issues do not get covered by health insurance generally, but they still need to be. There's still health issues. I don't know, there's a lot of things. Listening, making sure you're using the right pronouns is really huge, particularly now. If you ask someone their pronouns or someone tells you their pronouns, it's just a very, very respectful way to just show that you're listening, that you are respecting this person, is using the right pronouns, using the right name.
I also want to say, I just had a thought about what other blind spots I see are. I feel like, and I'm probably not, you know, I can call myself out for this too, but I feel like people who are in the community, you know, if you are a lesbian, sometimes I feel like people who are in the community can have this idea like, oh, well, I'm gay, I'm in the community, and then kind of use it as an excuse to not be educated on all the different ways that they to be gay, and use it as an excuse to uphold some maybe toxic things, you know, and it's like, well, no, I'm gay, so I can't possibly be upholding those structures. And it's like,
right. We actually see that a lot. We see that a lot all the time, actually.
You're so right. Yeah, they're like not using pronouns. I see something a lot that happens.
Yeah. And then you call them out and it's like, well, I'm part of the community. And it's like, yeah, but.
No, that was great. No, that's actually a great way to greet people, Catherine. Yeah, for me, when I meet people, I just started a part-time job as well, just to get out of the house at Trader Joe's. And when we meet each other, we just go, hey, my pronouns are she, her, like, my name is Mackenzie. It's just like another thing that you say if that's something that is important to you, you can ask someone their pronouns.
And I don't think it's ever too late to ask. I've known somebody, I've like known people for like a long time, and you can just literally at any point be like, am I using the right pronouns for you? What are your pronouns? And they'll just tell you, like.
I say pronoun check to my friends sometimes because they changed. But like, especially when you're our age or even older, I know a lot of people who are in their 40s, 50s who are like realizing, oh, I'm not cis.
Right.
Crazy. But you know, just being like, hi, my name is Mackenzie. My pronouns are she, her. What are yours?
Easy.
Normalize it.
Yeah. Kate said, what health issues are particular to queer people?
Right. Not even particular to queer people, because a lot of these will apply to everyone, but including PrEP, HIV preventatives under covered medication. My mind's blinking. Do you know any?
That should be covered by insurance?
Yeah.
Any of them? I mean, like a lot of, we want, you know, trans surgeries to be included. Sometimes they aren't. I don't know what the laws are about like ways to get pregnant. I don't know about that. I have no idea if those are covered. I don't know.
Well, I mean, like one might be that you know, paternal leave for two gay fathers who now have a baby, right?
Yeah, there should be across the board paid leave.
Paid leave across the board.
Paid child leave.
Exactly, and that's like that works in everyone's benefit. Having paid paternal leave, having STD preventatives covered by healthcare that works for everyone, because you don't have to be gay to get HIV.
Mhm.
I think we proved that wrong in the 90s.
Can we go back to this ally thing? Because I think it's really important.
Yeah.
I think I would like to name that one of the ways to be an ally is to name out loud problematic behavior when you see it.
Yeah.
And so, you know, and I hear this a lot with my coaching clients, because actually what we're discovering is that to a large degree, homophobia is alive and well inside the corporate sector in particular. And people say things, they just say things. They say things sometimes out of meanness. They say things out of ignorance. They say things out of just not, you know, just not knowing, or maybe even a good intention. But to staying quiet is contributing to the problem in a huge way.
Absolutely.
Right. So it's important to say, hey, well, you know, I'll give an example that happened actually just the other day in a women's group, fabulous group, close women, closely knit group of women, and probably 3 of the women on the call are queer, so not just lesbian, right? And another woman was talking about how free she was beginning to feel, and she's a heterosexual woman. And she was saying how free she was feeling to just be herself. And she goes, and I'm sitting here in my flannel pajama, in my flannel shirt, just like any lesbian. And, you know, well-intended, trying to be funny, you know. And as the facilitator, what I noticed was that I looked at her to check, you know, surely she did not mean what just came out of her mouth. I looked at the lesbian, I looked at the other women, but particularly the woman who identified as lesbian, and I saw her face cover, you know, she was trying to make it all okay. So I stopped everything right then and there, and I said, I just need to stop the conversation. And I said to the one person, I know you meant nothing by that comment, but I just need to check in with so-and-so. Are you okay? And she thanked me. And then I said, I think what you said could be problematic, and here's why. But I did not ask the woman, the lesbian, to explain why. It's not her job.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't her job. And that, like, I applaud you for not making her do work that she didn't sign up for.
Right.
Yeah.
But we often, you know, I speak for myself, like I was afraid to like go into a space like that, because I didn't exactly know why the flannel comment was problematic. Right. But this is why, as leaders, we have to know, because if we're going to intervene, if we're going to name something out, then we have to be able to say, hey, I know you didn't mean it, but what you said was problematic, and here's why.
I think that the 3 best things that you can do, hands down, to be an ally is listen, talk to your friends, not just like when you're calling things out, but actually being like, hey, I learned this the other day. Like, isn't this cool? Gender is not just 2 things anymore. Never has been. And also calling things out. That was a great point, Kelly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. My favorite way to like call things out without actually, just to kind of test the waters, is my favorite way to do something like that, is I just go, what did you mean by that? Like, can you talk me through what you meant when you said that? What should I have taken away from that? And then you can kind of walk them through, oh, okay, well, this is what I took away from it. So you might want to rework that one.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Jeff, you have your hand up.
Thanks, Kelly. This is awesome. And then there's just so much to encompass here. And it's really challenging to consider our own values and what we think is a better world, and then still be respectful and understanding of the conditioning of where other people are coming from which we might easily consider to be non-inclusive and not loving. And something that y'all just said just reminded me of a very old story in my life. I thought I grew up in a very liberal, progressive, Presbyterian family. And I remember sitting at the dinner table, and I was in high school, so I think it was 1968 or 69. And my mother got up from the dinner table. We had this little black and white television. Sometimes we would watch the news during dinner, and we watched people in Alabama getting hosed, Black people getting hosed, and German shepherds biting at them. And my mother got up from the table and she said, "This is unbelievable. This is happening in America. This is so awful. This is so awful. God called," and she's crying and she's like emotional. And she says, "God calls all of us to love one another. It doesn't matter if we understand. We need to love each other, even Negroes and homosexuals." And I went, "What? Even?" But you know what? I mean, at that point, in that moment, I was a older, radical, hippie teenager being really liberal. And I thought she was terrible for saying even. But now, as an older man, I'm thinking, you know, she had come a long way from her upbringing and her conditioning to be so compassionate about the injustice that was being caused on those African Americans. So what she was saying,
she had the
from
right
her
message.
perspective, was loving.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? And so I'm wondering what's going on today. What I'm hearing from you two is so beautiful and uplifting to me, because I'm hearing a whole new shift about not looking at this different, unique population and the queer community and the world being accepting, but it's deeper than that. It's broader than that. It's like, this is a whole new picture of, let's all just chill the fuck out and accept and respect one another and not make it such a big issue. I'm not going to introduce somebody and say, "Oh, this is my Black gay friend," and this is my friend, and so it's just, let's take a deep breath and chill out. And I don't want to judge or blame my mother anymore for what she said. And I don't want to be hurt or angry by people today who have no idea what we're talking about tonight.
Yeah.
I don't know where to go with that. That's a lot to work with, right?
Yeah. And honestly, like thank you so much, everyone, for showing up, because that's really like all this is like, people probably have a lot of questions and it's just a conversation. And it's never any, I love that people are like doing their best and like open and interested in the conversation. And when I say listen, thank you, Andrew, for your question. Yeah, just give people space to express exactly that, what's true for them and their experience. And yeah, if someone's telling you something, if someone's telling you, "Oh, this is my experience," be like, "Oh, thank you for sharing that. What can I learn from this?" Like, that's just amazing.
But and still hold boundaries, right?
Oh yeah. Not be like, "Hey, tell me everything there is to know about being gay while you're
right. There's no reason to objectify anyone.
No. Yeah, and I think that's something that I really love that's coming up, as we move forward as a community, is like, as like a global community, is honestly every time that we work to respect and provide for a minority community, it gets better for everyone else. Because I honestly think it's a little weird, like how much we tie gender to sex. I love you all, but I don't want to know what's going on in your pants. And who you are people has nothing to do with that. Right. And like how you move throughout the world, that has nothing to do with that. That's like, thank you. I'm not a medical professional and you're not asking me any medical questions. I don't need to know. I can just see you all as people and how you feel and how you present yourselves.
Mhm. Beautiful, beautiful. Well, we have just a little bit more time together. Does anybody have any questions that they want to contribute to this conversation? Otherwise, I'll go for a couple more because a lot certainly came in here. I find I struggle with these conversations these days as this moves towards broader community and expanded terms. I feel lost and uncertain on how to start a conversation without offending. Such a great question. Yeah. Yeah, such a great question.
I think it depends on like who the conversation is with. So I would say the first step, if you're really uncertain about a topic, is like go and get as much material as you can get, you know, read all the books you can find, do all the research you can find. And then when you're feeling like you are kind of more educated on a topic and you want to start discussing it, find someone who's also wanting to discuss those things with you and have a really genuine conversation that's like clearly full of compassion, and you guys are both in the same space for the same reason. And that reason is to kind of like expand your minds and find new information. And so those communities definitely exist, and I bet you have like more friends than you think that would be really open to having those conversations with you. As long as they're compassionate, like I feel like everybody can have those conversations.
I think compassion. Yeah, that was great. I will say, check your sources. We will be putting out a list of resources, books, websites. There are a bunch of really good websites, educators, because another resource that we have on the internet is educators, people who that's their job. That is what their calling is just to be like, hi, I don't know how to phrase this and I don't want to be offensive, but it might come out that way. Talk me through it and they'll have a compassionate conversation with you. And yes, exactly, Andrew. Thank you. Providing information like that is another thing that you can do to be an ally, is talking to your friends in a workplace, having that information available. At my other job, we first week that you're there on your 4th shift, they take you into a back room, and it's not at all as scary as that sounds. And they have a queer educator who works there. That is his job. And he gives you resources, websites. He talks to you about like, these are what pronouns are. This is like how to negotiate these moments of like maybe embarrassment. So that is absolutely a thing you can do as an employer. And that is also a lot of those resources given to me, I will be sharing with everyone.
And I feel like, I don't know, I just feel like a lot of people that I know are not quick to jump down your throat if you mess up.
Oh yeah.
So if you're out there, you're doing the work, you're showing up to webinars, you're reading the books, you're trying to educate yourself, and you slip up and you get something wrong and somebody has to correct you, I feel like just being like, oh my gosh, yes, thank you so much for correcting me, and I will not do that again. That's the end of the conversation. Like, that's as bad as it has to be. That is like the worst case scenario, as long as you're okay to, you know, someone telling you that you did something wrong and you owning up to it and moving forward. Like, that's really as scary as it is.
Yeah.
Well, there's this great book called White Fragility that is, you know, of course, just the most awesome book in the world to read. And I wish everybody on the planet would read it. And reading it within the context of race is very powerful, but reading it within the broader context of minorities, of, underserved communities. And what happens is that we're so afraid, particularly as white people, but as anybody, we're afraid of the correction because we're very much a shame-based society. And if you can hear a correction as somebody trying to cross a bridge with you, someone, me saying to the woman who made the flannel comment is not a shame-based, how dare you? It's like, it could have been problematic and here's why. And it's a bridging. And if all of us can get over our shame-based response to being told that a mistake has been made and be more robust in the face of it. And like you say, Emma, and the response is simply, thank you so much. Yeah, that's it. And then change.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Terrific question there. So yeah, we're going to have a downloadable PDF that'll be available. We didn't make it yet because we wanted to build the PDF around a lot of the questions that happened tonight and what sort of emerged from the conversation. So there'll be a follow-up email with a recording of tonight with a downloadable PDF with all the goodies that Mackenzie and Emma are providing. Yeah. I think we have time for one more question if anybody has one. I have one. Emma, oh, there is one. Is there one there?
No, I don't see
Okay.
one.
Okay, here's the question. What are we not asking that we need to be asking?
I can't,
Oh my
I don't
God.
know. I don't know what I don't know.
No, but I mean,
Or I don't know what I do know.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what I mean? Is there a question? Is there an important question that if it were asked would be a really good for us to know?
No, I feel like everything has been really good tonight.
Yeah, y'all have been so respectful.
Yeah.
Like I really appreciate it. And like that's just the energy we all need to carry forward.
I can't think of
Me
anything.
neither. And I don't want to speak for Emma, but I'm always a resource at EQUUS. If like you're having trouble communicating with someone else, shoot me an email. I'm down for awkward questions. I know when I came out, I had a lot of awkward conversations with a lot of people. I'm so good. So if y'all ever need someone to ask any more questions to, feel free to reach out. My email is pretty much everywhere.
Your email in the chat, Mac?
Yes.
Okay, great.
But
Is
yeah.
there any other questions?
I think we're going to start to wrap it up. So Mackenzie and Emma, I want to thank you so much for just offering your hearts, your wisdom, your experience, your graciousness, and your presence, and your time, which I know is really important to you. And I've learned something again from this conversation. And everybody just, yeah, we're going to be doing a lot more of this in 2022, these kinds of conversations with all kinds of things having to do with being human. And we're going to have a really amazing calendar that you will see in 2022, announcing all the courses and classes that are happening in 2022, so you can plan way in advance. Emma's making sure that we just get that out there. We're going to have a brand new launch of a website, a fabulous, amazing, beautiful website that Emma designed. And just a whole lot of really amazing things are happening here. So stay in touch with us. We're also, we're opening up a community called The Herd, which is a Facebook community open for people who have engaged with EQUUS in, either done coaching, come here and done the EQUUS experience, been in a class or a course, or been in a wisdom circle. It's a private community of people who have been doing work on this level, and that'll be opening up really, really soon, so that you all can support each other and share ideas and inspire one another. So that's an exciting new thing. Yeah. Anything else, Emma, Mac,
No,
that I should?
I just wanted to say thank you all for showing up.
Yeah, thank
You've
you.
been great.
Yeah.
It was really nice to engage with you.
Beautiful. Thanks, everybody, and have a really beautiful evening.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.